In the cacophonous debate surrounding America's so-called migrant crisis, a pernicious and largely unacknowledged thread weaves its way through the fabric of this discourse: the ghost of anti-Native American racism. The conservative factions, ever so blinded by their myopic view of immigration, fail to recognize or conveniently ignore the profound irony that festers at the core of this issue. The migrants, many hailing from Mesoamerica and Mexico, are not so much coming to America as they are moving within their ancestral homelands. Genetically speaking, these individuals share a substantial lineage with the Native Americans, the very peoples whose subjugation and erasure form the bedrock of the current American state. To deny these migrants entry, to paint them as illegals and aliens, is to perpetuate a historical amnesia of grave proportions. It is a peculiar kind of hypocrisy that enables one to condemn the descendants of the indigenous while standing on land violently wrested from those same forebears. The conservative narrative, steeped in xenophobia, conveniently sidesteps the fact that the arbitrary borders they so fervently defend are but recent scratches on the vast timeline of this continent's history. One must not only recognize but also actively confront the insidious nature of this discrimination. It is not merely an issue of policy or border control. It is a continuation, a modern incarnation of the centuries-old subjugation of indigenous peoples. The same rhetoric used to justify the seizure of land and the decimation of cultures is now repackaged and directed at those who seek nothing more than a return to their ancestral lands, albeit in a different epoch. To address this crisis genuinely, one must first acknowledge the historical context in which it is rooted. The migrants at America's doorstep are not invaders. They are remnants of a fractured history, seeking solace in lands that were once home to their ancestors. It is a matter of historical justice, a chance to amend in some small measure the grievous wrongs of the past. The conservative echelons, in their blind adherence to a narrative of exclusion and discrimination, fail to see the opportunity that lies before them. By welcoming these modern-day descendants of Native Americans, America has a chance to reconcile with its past, to make a gesture, however symbolic, towards healing the wounds inflicted over centuries. In this pivotal moment, those entrenched in right-wing conservatism and marred by xenophobic tendencies stand at a crossroads. Here lies an unexpected, albeit symbolic, opportunity for redemption, a chance to soften the harsh lines of historical injustice that have long defined the American narrative. The Trail of Tears, a somber testament to the atrocities committed against Native Americans, remains an open wound in the nation's conscience. By extending a hand of empathy and acceptance to the descendants of those indigenous peoples now at our borders, conservatives have the power to offer a gesture of reconciliation, a step towards healing a legacy of pain. This is not about rewriting history, but about acknowledging it, learning from it, and using that understanding to inform a more compassionate and inclusive approach to those seeking refuge today. Embracing this path requires a bold re-evaluation of entrenched ideologies, but it is a path that holds the promise of transforming a dark past into a more humane and enlightened future. The migrant crisis is not just a question of immigration, it is a litmus test for America's willingness to confront its historical demons. It is an opportunity to right the wrongs of the past and to recognize the indelible link between the indigenous peoples of this continent and those who now seek refuge within its borders. The conservative narrative must be challenged not just for the sake of the migrants, but for the integrity of America's soul.